Hi, today we're going to talk about staying organized in Ableton Live. It's a topic I've been wanting to talk about a lot. I don't think I'm particularly organized, but I do think it's a very interesting topic to ramble about. I love rambling, I love talking, I love thinking out loud, I love making YouTube videos. I'm in the right place, you're in the right place, so let's talk about it. Okay, so before we even get to the Ableton stuff, I just want to say, if you want to be more organized and, fulfilled in what you do on a day-to-day basis, get yourself a whiteboard. The thing I do is I set a rule. Everything that's on the whiteboard at the end of the day has to be erased. So if I didn't finish everything, I have to erase it, and then tomorrow I have to write it again if I'm gonna do it. And if I'm not gonna do it, then I'll just forget about it and pay the consequences. Is this a good way of doing it? I don't know. But it's habitual and I can do it every day and I can kind of rely on it, so it works for me, whatever. But get yourself a whiteboard, use it however you want, just, use it. Even if you use it to doodle little pictures while you wait for stems to export or for emails to come back or whatever. Just get yourself a whiteboard and hang out with it and use it as a tool to kind of map your thoughts out quickly, and being able to erase them really quickly is equally as important. So get a whiteboard. Okay, so now we are inside Ableton, and the first thing I want to mention is this side area over here. You got your collections, then you got your categories, which is sounds, drums. It's like auto collections that Ableton will do for you. And then you have places. This is folders within your computer, and you can upload any folder you want into this sidebar and it will forever be there, unless of course you don't have an external hard drive plugged in where that folder resides. It will gray out while the external hard drive is gone, and then once you grab that sucker and plug it back in, that folder will darken again, and you will be able to access everything within it. And then the fourth section is this big bar right here, which is kind of like the hub of Ableton. This is where you access your collections, this is where you access the categories, and this is where you access your folders. Or what's within the folders, better way to say it. It's pretty generic as far as digital audio workstations go and digital software for creative stuff, but it's a basic thing that, it's actually very simple. I think it intimidates people the way that things look. I know when I first started in Ableton, all I wanted to do was make sound, and I just saw all of these things, and I knew some of them made sound, but I didn't know what did what. But after using Ableton for years now, having been a Logic user previously, I now much prefer just having my whole own musical world over here in this tiny box on the left-hand side of the screen. And while we're on the topic of this little box over here, let's talk about collections, which is the color-coded section at the top. You can decide what goes into these folders. It's totally up to you, but you do only have 7 collection folders, so that's important to note. You have 7 options. But you can name these whatever you want, and you can put whatever the hell you want into these collections. It's not just Ableton devices that go in here. It's audio, it's plugins, it's VSTs, it's folders from your computer. Literally anything can be put into these collections. And collections are like little folders that you assign things to by marking them as a certain color. By clicking the collection and hitting Command R, you can rename it. And just for fun, maybe I'll capitalize all of these to make them a little bit more eligible. And I won't get too deep into what I have in each of these folders. That could be a whole video on its own if you want. But for now, I will just go over which folders I have and why. Feel free to steal this sauce. Got a saturation folder. All my plugins that I would consider to saturate a sound, they're in here. From actual saturators to reel-to-reel emulators, and just the RC20, and certain EQs that are maybe a little bit noisier than I would like. Then there's the EQ folder. This is everything that's an EQ, clean and dirty, so RC20 is in here as well. Reel-to-reel machines are also in here. Anything that will affect the sound in any way that an EQ kind of does, replicates. Like, for example, in my mind, I can either use this EQ8 and cut off some of the highs like this, right? I can do that and get kind of a more vintage sound, or I can use reels, and I know that this will take off some of the high end and add a little more character. So those are both in the EQ folder. as well as other like bass effects, and like R bass is in my EQ folder because that's what I would consider in my mind to be a EQ move. Up next we got space, room sounds, reverb plugins, delays, chorus effects, auto pans. There's even a utility in here because the utility has a balance knob on it that you can use in groups in fun ways. Tons of things. Anything with a delay on it, so like this wires plugin. It sounds like this, but it has this cool delay. Yeah, anything with a delay on it will be in there. Up next we got MIDI. This is all of the MIDI instruments and plugins and sounds that I like. This is where I keep some of my drum packs that I have pre-saved. You can see they're all labeled here. Drums, any electric piano sound that I really like to use, I'll save them here. Granulator, I use Granulator a lot. Yeah, all of my favorite instruments, plugins, and VSTs are here. After MIDI, we have Vox. This is everything that has anything to do with vocals. Realistically, EQ plugins should be in here too, but I tried to keep this just like pitch, de-essers, Melodyne, any preamps that I have. But yeah, so that's my Vox folder. Purple is mastering, so this is anything that you might find on a master chain. Yeah. Guard dog. I'm sick right now. I don't know if I sound sick to you. I don't know if you know what I sound like normal. I can't even tell if I sound sick or not, but I am sick. I feel it in my body. Then the gray folder at the bottom is dynamics, so this is kind of another mixed bag, but it's multi-band compression, regular compression, any drum filters that I have on here. Use these collection categories if you want, and if you have your own, let me know what yours are in the comments, because I always see a strange collection setup and I kind of marvel at it. I'm like, oh, huh, that's an interesting setup. I didn't think about organizing my stuff that way, and it always makes me think, and you know, everyone's brain works differently, so please feel free to drop in the comments how you use the collections folders. Even if you don't use them at all, I think that's pretty fucking interesting. The next thing I do to stay organized is make sure that my MIDI audio and return tracks automatically show up how I want them to be. For me, if I have to pick, you know, 3 things that I want on every one of my MIDI tracks and audio tracks, it would be EQ, saturation, and then a panning plugin. So just in case you don't know how to set up your own default tracks, I'm going to show you how to do that right now really quick. So this is a basic MIDI track. Anytime you make a new MIDI track, which by the way is Command-Shift-T, or you can right click here and just do new MIDI track, you add whatever you want onto this MIDI track. So if you want to do it my way, that's a MIDI effect pitch, followed by a drum rack, and then an EQ. I use Pro Q3. But you could also sub this out with EQ8 right here instead if you want to rock it the Ableton way. Then after that I'll put an Ableton saturator, just leave it however it is. If yours looks different than mine, feel free to copy these settings right here. Then at the end I will put some kind of panning device. I have a Max for Live, pan stereo. This is the least important one in the chain. This is a leftover habit from before Ableton integrated split stereo panning on their mixer. They used to just have a single pan knob, which is more like a balance knob. It's not a split stereo pan situation. I'm also not the one to really dish out knowledge on this kind of thing. This is just one of my habits. So again, not an expert, but it helps me finish projects, which is the goal. So the choice is yours. Either do your panning in the effects area of your track or do it on the panning area of your track. Sounds redundant, but it's important to me. Moving on. Just make the track however you want it, right click at the top, and do save as default track. Now every time that you load in a new MIDI track or a new audio track, it will automatically come set up with the essentials, so you don't have to keep going into your collections and drag out all the plugins that you like. I don't recommend doing this with like super effect heavy plugins like reverbs and delays and super aggressive distortions. I like to reach for those plugins when I need them and not really worry about them otherwise. I don't like to get into habits with weird sounding stuff because although it might sound good on one song, it doesn't sound good in every single instance, and you will become sound blind to the effect of that plugin if you are reckless with how often you use it. That is my personal belief. Next up, let's go to the Instagram questionnaire. I popped a question on my story that said, I'm currently recording a YouTube video about staying organized in Ableton, but also in the art life at large. Get some words in if you want, and I'll put it in the video. So that's this part of the video where I'm gonna put you guys in the video. Okay, this first person says, just gotta do things as soon as you think of them and be careful not to let stuff build up. And this is really good. As you get the ideas, just let go of them. More ideas will come, and maybe we tell ourselves, you know, if I hang on to this idea, it'll build and build and become a really good idea, and then like somewhere down the line I'll let this idea go and it will be the perfect version of itself, when in reality that's probably not a good way to go about it. You should just let your ideas go right when you get them, because more ideas are on the way, and you don't want to let stuff build up and then just never let your ideas roam free. This other person on the same note says, I'm a I'll remember what this means kind of guy, and then they forget what it means. And that's another key thing. I believe David Lynch says something like, take notes in a way where when you read the notes, the idea will be presented to you again in its original form. Don't try to word it in a weird way, because though you might think you'll remember what you're talking about when you're taking notes on things to do for later, you probably won't remember what you're talking about. So you need to write it in a way that is specific and intentional and conjures up the same magic that the idea has. This person says, I'm not too organized, to be honest, but I try my best, or somewhat. I just have to use folders on desktop, and that's a fantastic way of using folders. I know someone who has all of their incoming projects on the right side of their desktop, and then all of their ongoing projects in the middle of their desktop, and then the left side of their desktop is where they collect everything that's like done and to be shipped off. And then once it gets shipped off, it goes onto an external hard drive, and that's their process. So it moves from one side of the screen to the other in these 3 stages, and they use their desktop for that. So the only things you'll find on their desktop is like project folders and notes and folders about certain artists and stuff like that. So this is a great way to stay organized. And this same person says, and also having just a box or something to collect your art in if it's physical. And this is another great one. You need a way to archive your work. A big part of staying organized is keeping work that you've done in the past clean, accessible, and safe from the elements, which slowly or quickly are attacking all of us all the time. So archiving your work correctly and appropriately is a huge one. This kind soul says, I don't. I use Wildflower drum packs though. Ableton color coding for plug-ins, I guess. Yeah, that's a good one. We kind of went over that in the beginning, using the color coding folder section of Ableton. This person just says, I don't, frowny face. No shame. We're not gonna organize shame, or lack thereof shame. Gotta use favorites. Again, we just talked about that at the beginning of this video. On my laptop, I make sure my desktop has no loose files. Everything goes in a folder. That's a great way to do it. Planning videos I want to make with pen and paper. This is a nice tactile way to get your ideas down and out. I know a lot of people who prefer to use a pen and paper. And on that same note, that person that likes to use a pen and paper that I am referring to, not the one who sent that as a response, but someone else that I know who is, in my mind, famous for their ability to conjure up great ideas with just a piece of paper and a single pen, also gets all of their royalty money in paper check form. They don't like to do direct deposit, because getting that paper check means that they then have to take a trip to the bank to go cash it. And that trip to the bank is, I don't think it's a therapeutic thing, but it's like something that they have to decide to get up and go do. And that's important to this person. They feel like if it was a direct deposit, that it might weaken the importance of the money that they're getting and make it less creatively valuable for them. I think it's quite a buzz when you go into a bank and kind of put a check down and cash it into your checkings or your savings, and you have to write a little slip for it, and you have to engage with another human being. You have to go out into the world. Maybe you can pair it with some other errands, and I think that's a great way to get out in the world and stay inspired and motivated in this big, crazy world we live in, I guess. That's kind of my interpretation of what they're doing. And I think I'm gonna stop it right there. This video has by no means been exhaustive. If anything, I've kind of just been circling around a few points over and over again, but hey, that is the whole point of these Let's Talk About It videos. That's what I like, that's what I'm into. I love to gab, love to talk. And yeah, I hope you guys got something out of this, or at least enjoyed the video. We are nearing 2,000 subscribers. which is pretty wild to me. Ever since hitting the 1,000 subscriber mark, I've kind of gone subscriber blind a little bit. I haven't really been paying attention to how many subscribers I've been getting or maintaining. But yeah, we're almost at 2,000 subscribers, which is pretty mind-blowing to me. Just wanted to say that and say thank you to everyone who subscribes and watches my videos and enjoys listening to me talk, or just watching this YouTube channel or whatever. And to everyone who recommends topics for me to talk about, I'm very grateful for that as well. This video was the result of someone asking if I could talk a little bit about how I stay organized in Ableton sessions. So if there's anything you want to hear me talk about, feel free to drop it in the comments, even if this is your first time watching, your 30th time watching. Drop it in the comments because I will see it and I will very likely make a video about it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment and subscribe if you really feel inclined. I'll be around making YouTube videos for the foreseeable future. Okay, bye-bye.